Yes,
Hello,
yes.
hello, hello.
What's up?
Hi, Louis. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Oh, thank you so much for doing this.
Of course. Yeah.
Seriously. Thank you, thank you. I appreciate you. Curators, I am so excited because I am honored to introduce you to a wonderful friend and my mentor, Louis Howes. I am part of his mastermind, the Greatness Mastermind. We had the opportunity to meet and get to know each other a lot better this year. I was a little bit nervous asking him to come do this interview, and I shouldn't be because he's one of the most humble and nicest guys who's always willing to deal and wheel with the truth. I am so excited to chat with him about his life, his successes, and what we perceive to be failures. But if I know anything about Louis, I don't know if he thinks there's failures as much as he thinks there's something else. But we'll get into that in a second. Louis, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Rockstar.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm so sure. Okay, so when somebody asks you, like if I were to sit next to you on a plane and I say, oh, so what do you do? What do you say?
Depends on the context. If I read the person first and try to figure out what they do so I can speak and have something to connect on. So if they're reading a book, I'd say I'm a writer. If they've got headphones in, I'd say I run a podcast. Or I try to get something out of them first so that I could relate to them right away with something I do. Because I think I'm like a decathlete of life, so I do a little bit of everything. If they're like in fitness, then I'd say, I'm an athlete. So it's kind of like leading with something to build rapport the fastest way possible. Because when you can build trust with someone, then you can really connect in a way and learn so much about each other so much quicker.
I reached out to Louis not 1 but 2 years ago and I applied for his mastermind, and he's so cool. He wants to interview everybody to make sure they're eligible to get in. And so we have this conversation and I'm like, I was not even lying. I was like half stepping. I'm in, I'm not in, I'm in, I'm not in. And I'll never forget, Louis, what you're telling me right now is you want to play small this year. I was like, come at me, bro. Come at me. I don't want to play small. And I totally chickened out. I totally chickened out from at least stepping up and stepping into the thing that I wanted. I believe that everything happens for a reason. But the fact that like 2 years later, I'm in your mastermind, firmly believing that this is where I was supposed to be. And guess what, homie? I'm not playing small anymore. I'm not playing small. I'm not
No,
playing
that's
small.
good. Imagine where you'd be right now had you stepped up 2 years prior. Just think
Oh!
about it. It's all good.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so on that note, I kind of think that early on in our lives, something happens where it shifts our perspective of what failure looks and feels like to what we think success looks and feels like. So early on, like, was there a time that you first remember something didn't feel right, or you felt embarrassed or ashamed? Like, what was the thing? And then back then, how did you deal with it? And then how do you deal when you feel those similar emotions today?
All the things that made me the most insecure and terrified as a growing up are the things that I ended up leaning in and overcoming, which made me who I am today. So, for example, I used to be terrified of girls. Like I was terrified of the rejection
Mm.
from like putting myself out there and being like attracted to someone when I was like whatever 13, 14, 15, and feeling like, what if they don't accept me, or what if they don't like me back? And I put myself out there and I'm made fun of by everyone else. It was like that fear of like, I'm not going to be accepted. And I remember this fear crippled me. Like I wouldn't put myself out there with girls. I wouldn't ask girls out or just tell them how I felt or whatever we did in high school. I can't remember. But, it just crippled me. And I didn't like the feeling of feeling like, I don't know, I didn't have any power of just being able to just say what I want or do what I want. Whether I was rejected or received or not is irrelevant. But at least the confidence to put myself out there and know that I was going to be okay if I was rejected. So I had the awareness after years of pain and suffering from not being able to put myself out there. I said, you know what? I am no longer going to allow myself to suffer from this. So one summer, I said, every time I feel butterflies when I see a girl, I'm going to force myself to go up and talk to them and just at least start the conversation. And that taught me something really powerful because I did this for about 2.5 months. Every single day, I had to go up to someone if I thought they were attractive at the least amount. So I was doing this like all throughout the day. Well, anywhere I was walking down the street or going anywhere, the pool, whatever it was. And, the first few weeks were embarrassing because I had no clue what to do. I didn't know how to say. I didn't know how to carry myself. I didn't have confidence. But I was like, I'm still alive. I'm never going to see this girl again. So who cares? And I got better and better at just like being myself and just saying, hi, how are you? I'm Lewis. And I think whenever we have fears, whether it be in business or relationships or whatever it may be with our health, we don't think we can accomplish something. And if we put ourselves all the way in and challenge ourselves, what's the 30-day challenge, a 90-day challenge, whatever, and say, okay, I'm afraid of this. I'm going to do it every single day until I'm not afraid anymore. That's when we really claim our power back in any area of our lives, especially in business if we're talking to entrepreneurs, because most of us are afraid to put ourselves out there. Well, what if my course doesn't do well? Or what if this podcast doesn't do well? Or this post on social media, whatever it may be. We're afraid of everyone else's opinion, of being rejected. I realized like I didn't need every girl to like me, or I didn't need every girl to like say hi and smile back at me. Like, it's okay. My life is going to move on. You don't need everything you post to be liked by thousands of people. You don't need every course you launch or every program or event to sell out. It's going to take time to develop. I'm still developing my skills as a man in a world with my girlfriend. It's I'm still developing skills to attract someone and to keep someone, all these things. Just like my business. 10 years in, I'm doing things and I'm trying things constantly that a lot of the times work because I've been doing it and I kind of know what's going to work. Sometimes they don't work as well, or I'm like, things that were working aren't working as much anymore. And so I've got to reinvent and reapply something all the time.
Okay. So before we get to what you're reinventing and what you're changing, put that in like a business perspective early on. Put yourself in that like 1 to 2 year time frame that you said, I'm going to apply myself and I'm going to make it work.
I mean, doing webinars, I remember being terrified of doing webinars because I wasn't a public speaker. I didn't know how to put together a slide deck. I didn't know how to turn on a webinar software. I didn't know how to present an idea and enroll someone in my vision. I didn't know how to do anything. But I had a skill set at the time, which was LinkedIn, this 10 years ago, where I was doing these LinkedIn networking events and I was kind of coaching people one-on-one for, $100 a session or whatever. And then I had an opportunity to do a presentation on it. And I remember just being like, this is the opportunity. And I'm terrified at the same time. Like I was so terrified to do this webinar, but I knew that it was an opportunity to make a lot of money. And I think sometimes we know what the opportunity is to make a lot of money or to launch our business into the next level or whatever it may be, but we're so terrified of failing with a rejection or not having the skill set to do it. And I just said, I got to figure this thing out. So I started finding someone who could help me put together a slide deck. And it didn't look good, but at least I had a slide deck.
Yes.
I got together some ideas and they weren't like polished, but at least I had something.
Yes.
And someone else was promoting the webinar. So I didn't have to worry about traffic or getting leads, but I had to worry about my fears of not knowing what I was going to say and just like never doing something before. And I didn't have a course or anything to sell yet. So I was selling something that I didn't have in the hopes that people would buy it and then I would give it to them later. And
I need to stop you. Okay, because what I do, Lewis, is like you just take it and you're like, you're going, you're cruising, but I need to like take a stop. Like, y'all, did you hear what he said? He didn't have anything to sell, but he had the belief that if somebody was willing to buy, he would create it to be a product on demand based on what they wanted. Y'all, that is freedom and it's totally mind-blowing. So if you feel like you're at a place where Lewis is, like, I'm not sure, I don't know how to figure it out and then build it according to what your audience wants. Game changer. Okay, so that's where we are. Sorry.
Yeah, and for me, I guess I didn't have the skill set to like build out a course in the first place. This is 8-9 years ago or whatever. But I said if people buy this, then I'm going to create it. And I only had like a week to put this together anyway. So I was just like, well, I don't have time to develop something. It was like this urgency. So I was like, okay, let me just figure out how to sell it and put it together, and we'll see if someone buys it. And if they don't, then I don't have to create it. And so I did my first webinar. I made $6,200, and I remember being like, this is the greatest day of my life. I was freaking out and terrified at the same time. I was like excited, but I was like, oh, shoot, now I have to deliver and like create something, which I don't know how to do. I didn't know how to do the next step.
Mm.
But I think I was just focusing on one step at a time. And with every win came a new challenge. So let me get to the one win and then figure out how to master the next challenge. That's a win. And then, okay, here, now how do I build a team once I've created the course? Okay, now I just figure out the next step as I go. I don't know where I was going in the story, but essentially that's how I've done everything. I've just been like, well, how do I get to the next step? How do I, get to the next level of where I want to go to get me closer to my vision? And it demands me overcoming a fear of rejection, something not working out, or people giving negative feedback. And when we can overcome that fear of like wanting to please everyone in the world or needing to be liked by everyone, which I want everyone to like me too. It's not like I don't want people to, I don't want people to not like me, but I'm so committed to getting results and having the lifestyle that I want that it's worth having some rejection or pain a little bit here and there. So
One thing I want to just take a step back is, explaining to people that it's so easy on the outside to look at somebody and say, oh, it looks like it all came together, or they must know everything, or they have somebody consulting them or walking through them. And it's just so valuable to hear that, like, you're like, I don't know what the next step is, but once I get there, I'll figure it out. I don't know what the next step is. Once I get there, I'll figure it out. And so I want to take a step back and like put down those blinders. Like, still to this day, is it safe for me to assume? And I know it is. I know you have projects that you're like, I don't know how it's going to end up, but the next step. So it's like a pattern you've created towards your success.
yeah, I mean, if I kept doing the same thing over and over, then I wouldn't need help from someone who could teach me something new. So if I was just doing podcasting every single day, once I've learned it and mastered it, I don't need mentorship or coaches or advisors to help me do something else. But I've got a documentary that I created that it's like, I don't know how to make a movie. I don't know how to do a documentary. I don't know how to sell this to Netflix. I don't know what I'm doing. So I hire people who do know, or I, reach out to friends to give me advice on how to do it the best way so I don't make mistakes. I'm doing a talk show that I sold to Facebook. I don't know how to do a freaking talk show with a 50-person crew and like manage all these things. So I consult with people who've done talk shows and sold shows. And, it's like I'm finding the people to give me the feedback. And even with people teaching me something, it's still a fear of the unknown that I have to go through. So I'm still doing stuff, even if I have the best people in my corner. It doesn't matter if you have the best people in your corner or no one in your corner. You still have to do the work and overcome doing something you've never done. And it's scary. It doesn't matter if it's me, you, it doesn't matter who it is. It's scary doing something we've never done. And I think for me, I'm so focused on the vision of who I want to be and where I want to take my life and what I want to create and bring to the world that I'm willing to go through so much unknown in order to make it happen and experience that type of pain if I need to.
When you're feeling in that moment of unknown, when you're just like, I have to go through this, I have to sit through this, what's the conversation that you're having? Like, what do you tell yourself? How do I make this practical? When somebody's watching this and say, Lewis, I know that fear. I don't have anybody in my corner. What do I tell myself?
I just play the what if game, or the what if, or the what's the worst thing that could happen game. So what's something you're working on that you're really excited about but unsure of?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot?
Yeah.
Oh man, hold on. My hands just got super sweaty.
What's a dream of yours that it scares you?
Um,
What would you love to do?
Lewis, I didn't even tell you about this at the mastermind because I like to keep all my cards really close to my chest. I'm a doer. Like, I figure it out and then I come out and I talk about it. But I'll be real. I really want to write a book.
Okay. And what's holding you back from writing it right now?
I want to make sure that I can deliver a piece of valuable content that can see a person from beginning, middle, and end so that when they close it, they feel like it was time well spent. I don't want to do it for ego. I don't have anything to prove. It's just I want to come from a place of service to people who read it.
Do you have a fear around writing the book?
I think the fear would come basically from, can I effectively articulate my thoughts? Can I write what I want to write?
And what's the worst thing that would happen if you didn't?
You know what? It's so weird. I feel like guilt getting an advance on a book that doesn't sell. But I think that definitely stems from like being really poor as a kid. Like taking money that, like.
That you didn't deliver back on. Okay. okay, and if that happened, you got this advance and you couldn't deliver back on it, then how would you feel?
I would feel pretty awful.
Okay, and then what would happen?
I wouldn't get a second book deal.
And then what would happen?
Nothing. Nothing. I could self-publish.
And then what would happen?
The failure would be my own. It's my loss.
And then what would happen?
Nothing. I would go on, continue. I could keep on writing.
There you go.
Writing.
You would move on.
I would move on.
You would move on, and you would live another day.
I would.
And I think that's what I do with myself in every situation. Well, especially getting up on like a speech on a big stage. Like I used to get really nervous being on a stage. Well, what if I forget my stories, or what if I stutter, or what if I stumble, or what if the lights go out, or what if people laugh at me, or what if they boo at me? What if I run off stage and pee my pants? What if, it's just like, what if? And then I'd be like, well, I'd be really embarrassed and I wouldn't want to see anyone for a while. And maybe I wouldn't, do a podcast for a while. And maybe I would just be depressed and, tell my friends that I'm a loser. And then, I would just keep going down the rabbit hole. And then, well, one day I'd wake up and be like, all right, it's time to do something new. And I'm alive. And I think when we go down the rabbit hole of like, what if? It's the worst thing that could happen in that situation. And then what would happen? And then what would happen? We just keep going. We go back to the same thing. Well, I'll still be alive. I'll pick myself back up and we'll try again. And I think we're so crippled because we're afraid of we don't know we just are in fear of the rejection and the failure and being embarrassed, as opposed to, well, life is going to go on after that. Yeah, you're going to feel some pain and you're going to, maybe struggle for a little bit, but then you move on. No risk, no reward. And you don't want to feel stuck doing the same thing every day anyway. So you might as well put yourself out there.
Oh, so good.
I just try to practice that. And I just try to continue to hold myself to a standard of excellence. It's like, I can't be talking about the school of greatness and living like some average, life myself. I've got to be the standard if I want to continue to share the message.
Be the standard to share the message. So good. So can you tell me about a time in your business where you felt like you were distinctly in the middle of what you could consider a failure, and if you had changed it to a success, or did you go through it, or what was there a time in your business where you're like, this is not good?
On my last business, when I had a business partner, the last year of us in business was not good, just because we didn't align to our visions. Our visions were different, and I didn't know how to communicate. He didn't know how to communicate. We kind of got into the business together without communicating. You're like, what happens if one of us wants to leave, or what happens if we're not aligned? So we were just everything took off so quickly. We're like, let's just keep doing this and keep making more money and keep growing it. And then as we started to have different visions, I had no clue. I was young. I didn't know really how to communicate. We didn't know how to talk to each other about it. And I think that friction made it really challenging to do anything positive, and it kind of consumed the energy of my life. So I'd say that was a failure in the fact that the business suffered because of our lack of communication, and we didn't have the tools to talk to one another in a powerful, positive way. But at the same time, I use that as a lesson, like you said, and apply it to every other conversation I have with any type of strategic partners or business partners, or any contracts I'm going into. I am clear on, okay, what's the exit strategy? What if I'm not aligned at some point? You're not aligned. I know moving forward. So it was a powerful lesson, even though it's hurt the business, but it helps me now.
So at the time where you felt like it was hurting the business, it was probably a really low time and you're feeling not so great. What's the internal conversation? Only because I think that when we empathize, when we see and hear others who go through something we feel, how did you get past that? What's the internal conversation?
I didn't get past it well at the time. I had a big ego at the time. So I was just like, I'm right, he's wrong. And I learned later that wasn't a win-win experience from me just trying to prove myself or act like he was not right, as opposed to saying, how can we make this better and move forward in a loving, powerful way?
That's so good. No, that's so good. That's so good, because I feel like in any situation, life partner, business partner, or even between a customer or a client, when we come from it from a place of I'm right, you're wrong, we're going to elongate this like place of funk, this place of pain. But when you say, how can I approach this from love, and how do we best move on from here? Total game changer. And I think that's kind of like identifies your success. So if you were talking to somebody and they're in a place in their business and they feel like everything has been chipping away at the thing that they want, and they feel like every time they take a step forward, they take 2 steps back. If you had the opportunity to sit down with them, cup of coffee, you're about to leave, what do you tell them? Like, what do you tell them for somebody who feels that they're just like, I'm tired, Lewis. I'm trying my best and it's not happening for me. What do you say to them?
I would say get on your vision and have clarity around your vision, because without clarity, you're going to feel exhausted. When we have clarity around our vision, and then it's really easy to say, well, are we moving towards that, or are we completely off the vision? Because if you're not working towards your vision, you're going to be feeling strained and tired. It's already challenging enough to make a vision come true. It's already going to take you all over the place. But if you're doing things that don't support the vision, then it's going to be challenging. So I would say get really clear on why are you doing the things you're doing? What's the greater purpose? You know, did you get off track from your original vision? Are you just like chasing the money now because you feel like here's a great opportunity, let me go chase the money? But is that serving your heart, and is that actually helping your clients or customers or your business and your team and your employees and everyone involved? Is it serving the environment, or are you hurting the environment? You know, really ask yourself, am I doing things for the betterment of all, or is it all just for what I want and my ego?
So if somebody says at the end, Lewis, I want to go and I want to create my vision, what's the first thing I need to do to create my vision?
Get clear on what you want and why you want it.
Great.
Sit in nature with no distractions, no phone, and ask yourself, what is the thing that my heart desires the most? Why do I want that thing? Is it just for me, or is it for a greater purpose? And I think, you know, our visions can evolve over time. You know, when I was in high school, I just wanted to get a girlfriend. So what did I do? I practiced every single day for 2.5 months on how to talk to girls, because that was a vision of mine. And we can have multiple visions of our life, a health vision, you know, relationship vision, business goals. And I was like, well, I'd crave intimacy. My heart's desire is intimacy and connection. And I would love to be able to have a girlfriend to do that with. But I was too terrified to talk to them. So I said, okay, well, why do I want that? Well, it's going to make me feel like I can really communicate and have a greater sense of like meaning in my life when I have a partner. And so it's like I start to explore why I want something. And if it's just, well, because I want to hook up with a bunch of girls because it's going to make me look good with my guy friends, then it's not a mutually beneficial vision that serves humanity. It's just serving me, and I can go achieve that vision, but it's not going to make me feel good, and it's not going to make others feel good. And so that's what I think we got to get clear on is, what do we want and why do we want it?
So good. And for those of you guys who want to dive deeper, Lewis breaks this down so clearly and amazing. That's actually how I first encountered, or my early first encounters with Lewis was through his book, School of Greatness. Definitely check it out. He has these amazing exercises after a lot of the chapters that really break down what is your vision, how do you want to live your life, what's your perfect day. I mean, really great in breaking through. So if you're at a place of funk in your business, check out the book, work through the exercises, follow Lewis on social media, Lewis Howes on all social, and his website, lewishowes.com. Lewis, thank you. I appreciate you. Like, you're just like a walking wealth of wisdom. And I liked how you brought it full circle, homie. You started off with your longing for intimacy and how you chipped away at understanding what it would take. And then you ended it with understanding that that set the temperament and like the pattern that you have to follow. Whatever scares you, you do it until it stops scaring you. And you don't have to know the next step until it comes.
That's it. I just think that fear, there's no room for fear in our bodies because it's just going to hold us back. So we should constantly be thinking, well, what's the thing I'm afraid of? Not like afraid of heights or something like that, but what's the thing I'm afraid of emotionally? And then put ourselves out there on a consistent basis until we have ownership of that. Because if we live in fear, we lack confidence. If we lack confidence, we lack the belief in ourselves that we are limited in doing something. And that lack of belief holds us back and makes us play small in the world. And I just don't want anyone to feel like they should be playing small. I think that we have so much available for us, and there's so much abundance in the world to experience. And playing small holds us back from just such beautiful things. So, but you can't live in fear, otherwise you won't have the confidence.
You asked me that question. You said on the phone, so what I'm hearing is you want to play small. And like the fact that we can come back and revisit this conversation to have like the full open-hearted admission that I didn't believe I wanted to play small, but the actions that I was taking was otherwise indicating that I was.
And it's not wrong to play small. It's not bad. I'm not making it wrong or bad, because if some people don't want to work as hard to like get to a certain level in their life, but if we're doing it out of fear, then I think that's a disservice to yourself and to the people around you, because then you're setting the example to your husband or to your family, or if you have kids, that, hey, this is the way mommy or daddy does it. And you're essentially saying this is the way you're supposed to do it to the people around you. And so, not saying you need to go like solve all the world's problems and like play that big, but it's like, don't allow the fears to hold you back, at least. Or if you consciously choose, I just don't want to because I'm happy, then cool.
So good. So good. Thank you for that reminder. Thank you for making me not feel so bad about that first year decision. No, I know. I love it. I love it. I look forward to my audience following your journey as you try new things, and you are so open with what you're sharing about your journey. If you guys haven't checked out his Instagram, he really walks you through the process of his Facebook show and when it's actually going to be hitting the internet. That's weird that you hit the internet. Anyway, this is like a new way of doing things. He's really a pioneer in this sphere, super inspirational. Watch his journey. Connect with him at Lewis House. Lewis, thank you. You're the best.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. Thank you.